Good evening and welcome back to the Angrycast and No Man's Sky. It's been a long while since I recorded anything for No Man's Sky other than the Chronicles episodes or that uninterrupted video I did. But I wanted to put out this video to show you how to make millions of units in one sitting. And basically it's something that everybody already knows about, but we're going to go through some basics that can help you get there faster. Now, I was an early adopter of this game during those dark times in 2016 when it first came out. And back in those days, I was able to rack up millions of units just by planet hopping to find exotic and underground items like vortex cubes and gravitino balls. Then a lot of updates came along after about a year, and without every update, things got more complex and all the recipes were reordered, things became obsolete, and now those early day moneymakers are no longer a valuable commodity. However, with farming, you can afford to buy any ship or freighter you want with ease as long as you can find it. So welcome on down to Angry Acres 5 and Mercantile. We've got all the best liquid explosive, living glass, and circuit boards this side of the Atlas. Bring the kids. Alright, I'm still working on that pitch. Give me a break. Anyways, with these 3 advanced agricultural products, you can produce millions of units without having to leave a large footprint on the planet. Now, I had this grand scheme to give you all of these resource totals that you would need to complete everything we're going to discuss, but quite frankly, knowing all that ahead of time won't really do you any good as you're going to be fighting your inventory system most of the way. It's better to just understand that it's going to take a hell of a lot of resources. But if you're still early enough into the game, you can plan ahead now, and when you're ready, the groundwork will all be laid out for you. So let's get moving and show you how to be successful space farmer! Now actually, we're going to take a minor step back. First off, you're going to need to have the proper tools. And during your first set of quests, you're going to learn to build the terrain manipulator. Now, it's not the greatest tool to use for terraforming, and there are easier ways to make a flat surface, but the terrain manipulator is a great tool to gather other resources needed to further you on your way. And those are the buried technology modules, or the salvage technology modules. You can find them on your scanner, and you'll need a lot of them in order to learn all of the blueprints from a blueprint analyzer for all the parts needed to build your farming empire. Now, while the terrain manipulator is also needed to gather various resources from resource deposits, in the long run, it's not the most efficient way. For one thing, it takes a lot of ferrite dust or better to power up the thing. And once that resource is depleted, I have yet to see it grow back after you've mined it. For that reason, the autonomous mining unit is a far better way to get an unending supply of any resource found in a deposit. But in order to get that blueprint, you're going to have to finish off the base building quest to unlock the science terminal, which will then give you the blueprint. Now, back in the early days, base building was a complete pain in the you-know-what. You could only build about 3 bases, and if you started right before any major update, your progress got muffed once the change went into effect. I ended up completing the base building quest 3 times, but I promise you, as much as the base building quests have you running all over Hell's Half Acre trying to do stuff, the payoff will put you so far in the black you'll never come back. And since you can set up an unlimited amount of bases, it pays to have little mini bases with a network of teleport modules connecting them all together so you can zip out to a base, grab what you need, and then zip back. And by that token, I think it's time we get some resources up and running with the AMU. Deposit. Now the recipe, once you learn it for the AMU, is 100 uranium, 2 metal plating, which is 100 ferrite dust, 1 advanced ion battery, which is 20 pure ferrite and 25 ionized cobalt, and then 150 carbon or 50 condensed carbon to power it for 1 cycle. And here's a list of resources that will come in handy. As you go along the farming quest line, your GEC farming specialist will teach you various plant recipes and have you grow them in hydroponic trays. This allows you to grow various plants for renewable resources. However, it costs a lot to grow one of them in these trays. The Biodome is a far greater way to farm valuable plants than using the hydroponic tray, in that it can hold up to 16 plants in one building, costs nothing to grow them repeatedly, and also allows for any type of plant to be grown inside them. But it's not going to be cheap. It's going to cost you about 250 frost crystal and 25 magnetized ferrite just to build one. So I suggest that once you learn all the plant recipes, you substitute your little GEC garden with about 5 frostwort plants and then build yourself a biodome from that harvest. And once you have the ability to create a biodome with ease, well, you can really see how all the other pieces begin to fit together to build your farming empire. Now, here's where we can diverge a little bit on best practices. I'm going to just come out and say that I do not recommend building one giant farm to make all of your products, just simply because of how resource and time intensive it will be to collect and build. That being said, if you choose to go this route, you could have set up a massive farm in one spot to create all of them. Since we're going to be producing at least 10 of each item, for the sake of getting over 20 millets in a single harvest, this is what you're going to need. Now here's a base I created in creative mode to show you how immense and complicated this whole process can be. As you can see, I have 33 biodomes each with the maximum amount of plants I can grow in each, 16. To do that, it's recommended that you place a cylindrical room below each biodome with a ladder in the center. This requires you to go into each room, climb up the ladder, collect all the resources, come back down, and then move on to the next one. A process which is cumbersome due to the ladder physics and time consuming, as it takes nearly 30 minutes to collect most of the resources, sometimes emptying inventory into storage containers along the way. But if you're hell-bent on setting up this massive infrastructure, knock yourself out. Maybe you can improve on the process. In any case, here's what you're going to need. For 33 biodomes, you're going to need 5 glass times 250 frostwort, 25 magnetized ferrite. That will get you 1. You have to do that 33 times. On top of that, you're going to need 33 cylindrical rooms, which is 350 pure ferrite each. On top of that, you're going to need 17 straight corridors, which is 100 pure ferrite. And that gives you a total of 8,250 frostwort, 825 magnetized ferrite, and 13,200 each of pure ferrite. Now this is just to set up the basic infrastructure. We haven't even looked at what it will take to put plants in all of those biodomes. So let's look at each individual farm and see how best it is to maximize profits while reducing the effort. If you're not interested in setting up a massive farm with 33 biodomes, including all it takes to build it and collect everything, I suggest setting up 3 smaller bases on 3 different worlds. So let's talk plants and planets. Each recipe has one item that outnumbers all the rest in terms of the quantity needed. And because of that, I have found it's easier to plant those items on a world that can support them outdoors. Basically, the world from which they originate. It saves on the overall resources to build the infrastructure. And for living glass, the most abundant ingredient is the gamma root. For the liquid explosives, it's the fungal mold. And with circuit boards, it's the star bulbs. Because of those 3 distinct items, I decided to build each farm on a different world type: lush, toxic, and irradiated. You can go any way you want on how you determine which one you want to build. If you want to get the money first, go for the most expensive item. But for me, I found that it's a lot easier to set up the circuit board farm first. Why? 1, it's on a lush world. That means you don't have to worry about the weather except for some of those passing storms that happen on them. 2, one of the main ingredients is frostwort, and one of the other main ingredients is selenium. Selenium takes about 15 to 16 hours to grow one plant, whereas frostwort takes about an hour. So you're probably only going to be able to collect enough resources to make 10 circuit boards once per day. During that time, you can collect a ton of frostwort in order to build the other biodomes for your other farms. And it's a lot easier to collect stuff when it's not, toxic or irradiated or, freezing outside. So that's not a bad thing. So I suggest starting up the circuit board farm first and then do everything else. And for this farm, you're going to have to build 6 biodomes with a layout of connecting corridors to a main hall. And at the end of each entrance, you could put a landing pad or a door. I put the landing pad on it for when you get some travelers coming by, you can sell them your wares if you can find a better price there than in the Galactic Trade Terminal. Now for each biodome, it can support up to 16 plants, but not every farm is going to need to max out all the biodome spaces for each plant type. This eliminates that need for ladders or cylindrical rooms, and you can get away with planting at most 15 plants per biodome, leaving a space open for a corridor. You're going to need the following plants, and I might just give you total numbers of resources needed to fill all 3 farms with the necessary plants at the end. I highly doubt it because some of the math has changed in that. But basically, to produce 10 circuit boards, you're going to need about 20 frostwort plants within 2 biodomes, 50 solar vines across 3 of the biodomes, and 10 echinocactus or echinaceous, I don't know what the heck it's called, the cacti in one of the biodomes. Now lastly, because it's a lush world that supports star bramble, you're going to plant 80 plants outside in proximity to the base. How you choose to arrange them is up to you. I have found that the easiest way to terraform an area for outdoor plants, other than using the terrain manipulator, is to use that larger paving structure to flatten out the terrain. So for the star bramble plants, you'd go 8 across and 10 deep. Fill that in with all of these pavers, and then you can take them back up, regaining that ferrite dust that you would lose in the terrain manipulator. And it also provides a wonderful little guide system of grid lines for where you should plant each star bramble plant. So that's how I would set it up. And then we're going to go through the the living glass and the liquid explosives as well. All right, on the living glass. For this one, we're going to have to go find ourselves a nicely radioactive world, so bring the SPF. To produce 10 of these puppies, you're going to need to have 50 frostwort plants across 4 biodomes and 20 copperite plants across 2 biodomes. That's 6 biodomes, as I've said before, but you can probably fudge it and make it 5 by combining your frostwort and your copperite. I like to have extras hanging about, so I just go ahead with the 15 method. Lastly, outside, dotting the decaying landscape, you're going to need about 80 gamma weed plants. And then finally, let's move on to the liquid explosives.
I'm doing this one live because I had to fudge the math a bit. I kind of screwed up and had overstocked the farm. So this one we only need about really one. We actually only need 3 biodomes. One for Mordite, as you can see here, and then 2 biodomes for Echinocactus or Echinacea or Echinocactus or whatever it is. 2 biodomes filled with the little cacti plants, and then that is all you need inside. You only need 3 biodomes. However, outside, that's where it gets crazy, as you need a shit ton of fungal mold. Now, I may have more than 120 plants here, but 120 plants is what you're going to need, because it's cost you 600 each in order to create 600 individual items, not, well, 600 plants, but 600 pieces of fungal mold in order to create the acid, help create the acid. And we're on a toxic planet where the giant mushrooms grow, and it's a idyllic location for the burgeoning boom business. And I happen to have found a location with shelter that I could use in order to set up shop while I had to plant all 120 plus of these fungal molds. And again, it's very simple. All you got to do is set up the pavers, giant pavers, with a pure ferrite of 5 each. Pure ferrite will set that up, and then you can just create a grid line section, and it will help guide you on how to get these as straight as possible. As you can see, I did pretty good for not being all that great at planting things. So that's it. That will get you a crap ton of money, and we're going to show you the results here in one moment. All right, now here we are back at our original base. You can see somebody flying around trying to find a landing spot. He cannot find one, but we are more importantly going into my little hidey hole here with the what is he? The overseer. Yes, he's the overseer. How you doing, merchant? But we're here for the Galactic Trade Terminal. As you can see, we have in our inventory, I made it so I kind of sold some stuff off to sort of even out my units to give me almost closest to 100 million to make it easier to do math. But you can see here, the living glass, we've got 5.7 million. Then the circuit boards are 9 million, so that's a cool 14 million. And then the liquid explosive, another 8 million. That's 22 million. 22 million for those three products. Now, you might find different systems with different economies might produce a better result. However, this is a pretty decent place for me to have be selling this stuff, and it is just an insane amount. So let's go ahead and sell off our items. Oh boy, look at that! Look at it all happening. It's all happening. Where's it at? Where's the last one at? There's circuit board. There we are. And you can see that selling all those items gives us 23 million. 123 million now. That's it. That's all it's going to take. And here's the thing. If you don't already have a freighter and you want to go looking for an S-class freighter, you're going to need about 400 to 500 million just alone to buy a freighter. Now, if you have a freighter, it's going to cost you a little bit less because you're going to trade in your whatever the cost of your freighters, and we'll show you how to do that as well. But there you go. Liquid explosives, living glass, and circuit boards. Those are your high-ticket items, and now you're a farmer. If you can figure all that out and get it all done, you will be in great shape. And I am going to go harvest some more, build some more, and sell some more, and make more. And for that, I want to thank y'all for coming out and listening to me for a while. You have a good night, and we will talk to you next time here on the Anchorcast. Have a good one. Bye-bye.